So welcome to this hour presence practice. And today with our practice of Qigong and Taoist meditation that we kind of launch into after we spend the first 30 minutes with the foundations of touching in on these qualities of presence. Perhaps we can use the experience today to see how a practice like Qigong or Taoist meditation, if done with that sense of tapping into who we truly are and the fullness of our being, and how nothing in our being is actually stuck, and how there is this very fine and free and spacious flow together that's always going on in our body. Even if we're experiencing health difficulties, hurt, pain, and actually that will be another series that we will launch into after this, which is how we can use these qualities of presence to help us feel how these qualities of presence, even when we're feeling our worst, can reveal themselves, and without changing the situation in any fundamental way, allow us to have a context in which to not shut down our systems so that they can continue to function as optimally as they can and help us to heal. And so we'll settle in here for the first 30 minutes of practice, where it's not about the benefit that we want. It's not about what we think should be happening. We just very concretely feel into these qualities that are part of all of nature and are part of us as a part of all of nature. And then, as I hinted at, we'll go in the second half to see how this can almost lead to a kind, they call it in Taoism, like a kind of alchemy. And it looks like maybe my sound is off. Let me just check. Okay, looks like we're okay. So eyes can be open or closed. And we begin to feel into our inner experience exactly as it is. Turning into our inner landscape and feeling the flow of the breath. And if you've been with us for some of these series, Maybe beginning already from the beginning to take what we call the breath and feel into it more subtly. All the fine and subtle movements of air and body that make up this dynamic experience we call breathing. I'm beginning to notice the shoulder area. And on the out-breath, feeling the shoulders lay down and settle, simply settle, relax, let go. The weight of our arms helping our shoulders to lay down into support. And while feeling that downward sense of laying down, as we usually do in the shoulders, perhaps noticing as well the subtle movements and shifts in our underarm area. In the whole 3D experience of our shoulders as we breathe. And then beginning to notice the hands. The contact that the hands make with the lap. The weight of our hands given to our lap. And as we did with the shoulders, can let the out-breath help the hands more fully lay down. And give their weight to the support beneath. And let our hands release and let go. Nothing for our hands to do. And as our hands release and we feel into that place of contact, hands and lap, letting ourselves become alive to the subtlety of movement. that this thing we call breathing, as this movement even of the body, is influencing our hands there as they rest on our lap. Opening to that connection that links all of our body and one movement in our body with the rest of our body. And with that, perhaps noticing that this mutual flow of hand and lap really dissolves into innumerable and nameless fine parts interacting and flowing together, experienced at that meeting place of contact. That's not just one contact, but a multitude of all these contactful and mutual flows. We can still have the concepts of hand and lap there. They can be there. And yet the felt experience of hands and lap is not concepts. Can't be captured. Can't be just summed up in a word or two. And then we can bring this to the sense of our whole body and the ground. Body, ground, seat, chair. And letting the out breath help us feel that settling of the body and the body's weight. Into the ground support. And as we feel right into the meeting place, seat and ground, again noticing if there's subtle shifts of movement associated with the breath. It can be like a stone dropping into a pond, and the waves become fainter and fainter, and yet there's these movements, even more at a distance from what we think we're moving as we breathe. And being there at that meeting place, open to the subtle flows, with a willingness to let our expectations dissolve. It's not just two things, body and ground, two concepts, but the richness of the multitude of all that interconnection and interbeing. And how that's going on not only at that sliver of interbeing between seat and ground, but literally in every sliver of our body, from our seat to the top of our head. And from the top of our head to our seat, even at the level of forces, seamlessly through the ground and in continuity with the ground beneath us and all of the earth beneath us. In continuity, even with all the layers of air above us, until it thins out into outer space. But sitting here between heaven and earth, as they say, a seamless, all-together flow of mutual flow that today we're already evoking as not only mutual this and that, but so finely and freely mutual together. And to help with this, let's tap in to that fine free flow of nature, where it may be easier for us to feel the breath in and out of our nose, where we open to the practically infinite, no limit to the grain size of flows within flows within flows. Just by feeling how we can't resolve the breath as this streaming flow in and out of us. The more we open to it, the more finely flowing it reveals itself to be. And for this part of the practice can go into alternate nostril noticing pattern. To, in a relaxed and open way, really hone in on what's the finest flow I can feel in this nostril, in this part of the breath. And just seeing how the role of concepts and expectations can play in our experience. Why is it easier to feel here? Maybe it's that we expect something like air, and even something that's invisible to us for the most part. To be very refined and very free. And since we expect it, it's a little bit easier to feel it. Perhaps noticing too if we ever just are like, yeah, I've felt the free flow of my breath already. What's next? Even if we don't say it out loud or say it to ourselves, sometimes the mind is just looking for a way to check a box and go on to the next more interesting thing. So I find for myself it's part of the practice to be like, no, on this next in breath, in this next nostril, there's a finer flow yet to be felt ever by you. And you can open to it. And how that can even shift my expectations of free flow, even for the air that I breathe. That there is such indescribable richness in a small millimeter of experience, of flow. And this is some of the shift that can seem to alchemize our experience. So maybe seeing what it would be like in the next interval of practice, where we'll, as usual, do what we usually do, but with a sense here of bringing the open attitude, and maybe even a sense of our expecting to feel freedom and find flows within flows within flows. To actually carry over that attitude and expectation to feeling the subtle movement of our out-breath and the cascading wave of our front body as we breathe. So here we tend to continue to feel on the in-breath, the free flow of the air can come down inside of us. We feel it. We open to that free flow quality where we more expect it. And then on the out breath, same attitude, same expectation for the undulation of our front body. In a way, toggling back and forth, feeling free flow in our breathing wind on the in breath, feeling the free flow of our body itself on the out breath, and that cascading undulation down our front body. Where a centimeter, a millimeter, any 2 points in our front body are connected by a practically infinite line of freely flowing parts. We've just come not to expect that. Because we can say, oh, it's my chest and it's my breath, and I've felt it already. Again, that attitude is, well, yes, and there's no end to the richness, to the fineness. It's like letting go of these handholds of concepts that make us feel like we've grasped it, done. And it can kind of feel experientially like we're free falling. Free falling into the unknown. Because there's no limit to how finely we can feel this fine free flow of our body, even just our physical body. And gently letting that part of the practice fade. The toggling back and forth, breath and body, can be helpful for feeling the fine free flow. And probably for many of us, we'll tend to feel it more in our hands, our very sensitive hands. And let's do the finger by finger breath a little bit differently today. Where on the in breath can feel like, almost like you're drawing air in through your very fingertip. Awakening the sensitivity of your fingertip. And then on the out breath, as we usually do, slightly elongating that finger and feeling its length now to that fingertip where it touches the air. And we'll do that just a couple of times on the thumb. And where this sense of breathing through our fingers is in a way no different than evoking and toggling into that openness to the free flow quality, as we also feel our fingers. So it's using that visualization of the breath flowing in and out of the fingertip to help us with our expectations. that thing we call a thumb, and that we think we know what it feels like, actually maybe we don't. Maybe we've only begun to scratch the surface of the fineness of all the multitude of flows that comprise what we call thumbs. And then going into the finger by finger breath, where next in breath and out breath, doing so for the pointer finger. And then the middle finger. It's continuing at the pace of your breathing through the fingers. And then gradually letting the breathing visualization begin to fade. And returning our noticing to the thumb. And how do we even know that we have a thumb? Setting aside the label and how there's a piece of space that is full of a signal, full of a beingness, full of presence. And letting ourselves feel that piece of space full to the brim. With the presence of being. And then moving to the next piece of space, formerly known as the index finger. But instead of that sense of the concept pointing from our mental map down to the finger, there's just this piece of space. And it's sending signals that, yes, we can recognize as the good old index finger, where it usually is, next to the thumb. And it's also a piece of space just teeming with signals. The experience of at some point words begin to fail. And going at your own pace. Opening to these pieces of space, one by one on both hands. For the next few minutes, without my words taking you back into concepts. Just letting the beingness and signals in those pieces of space express themselves. They are already dynamically, naturally expressing themselves. Stuff in nature that comes with messages, signals, mind, awareness. And is right there in that space. How we even experience those spaces as different. And now slightly spreading all of those spaces that you were exploring where there's more space in between. And almost feel how space flows seamlessly between the spaces. There's actually no separation. And even our awareness doesn't stop at our fingertips. We're aware of the spaces in between. And all around. Outer and inner. As concepts begin to dissolve. And we're going to take a little, in a way, free-flowing interlude here, and then come back for some ways we can connect this more directly, explicitly to what we might call Taoist alchemy. Just giving the hands a shake. Can include the shoulders. Can come on up to standing. There's nothing that we need to hold on to or grasp. If anything, the whole point here of our exploration, our adventure, is that as a flow of nature, there's really nothing holding us back ultimately from experience of fine free flow that can be as fine as anything we can imagine. Coming to stand into Uji stance, comfortably connected with the ground. And we'll do some embracing Qigong. Breathing in, breathing out. Letting those alive fingertips, you'd like, can continue to feel as if you're breathing in and out through your fingertips. Let them feel as finely freeing, flowing as you may like. Knowing that as a flow of nature, there's no end to the flows within flows. And already, for us to be doing this movement As we explored more last time, all the flow between body and mind, jing shi shen, shani qi jin, is just going on. Maybe slowing down the flow a little bit, still letting it feel free. Free and easy, since it is always free. And might like to make the movements a little smaller, a little more inner. Taoist alchemy goes lian, refine, as in refinement of an ore, like in alchemy. Lian, jing, qua qi, lian qi, qua shen, lian shen, he, Dao. So coming back to sitting. So those words seem to indicate some way that we refine body, jing essence, and it transforms into qi. We refine qi, and it transforms into shen. And then refine shen, and it connects to the Tao, the way of nature. You may like to close your eyes for this. And just breathe through your fingers as that way of expecting that our fingers too are refined free flows, like the air, no grain size to our fingers, breathing through all the tips, all those junctures where the inner space of our body and the space around us connect. And then slightly spreading all the fingers, and how those pieces of space are teeming with contactful, fine, mutual flows. and the signals that let us know that right there, those spaces are occupied by our being. Lian, jing transforms into qi. And when we allow ourselves to feel that subtlety, refinement, the magic of the free flows that are so fine, they carry messages, signals, and are flowing all together with everything else. And that fill our fingers experientially with that being is there, experience is there. We're aware. Lian, refine, qi, transform into shen. And the miracle of awareness, consciousness, spirit, that these flows of nature are aware. And notice if there's a tendency to put awareness where we expect it. And allow ourselves to just feel that refinement of our fingers. Where the stuff of our fingers includes signals, includes mind. Experience the fullness of flow that seems to be occupying that space. That fills our experience, is our experience of that space. And lian, shen, he, dao. Somehow, as we continue to let ourselves feel refined, 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 finer, finer, freer flows. That includes the fine, free flow of awareness itself. We connect to the Tao. To the way of nature. To the way that nature transcends our categories. Awareness, shen, body-mind connection, qi, body, jing, with all the labels. And yet we can open to ever finer flows of nature. And in that process, connect more to the way of nature, just the way it is. The way it always was. The way it is now. And the way it always will be. Without anything up to us in the matter. And this is what we go around calling our fingers. And if this can open us up to a fuller experience of the flow of nature that is our fingers, perhaps it can do that. For the rest of us. And this completes an hour of presence. And as we often do, we just coast for a little bit here to give ourselves a limbo time. Actually, maybe some of the more beneficial integration time, but we have to get into that. But It's just a time we don't have to practice or do anything in particular. And I believe he's partly conveyed this in the guided practice itself. But since it relates to safety, I just want to, really explicitly lay it out here, which is that there's can be tremendous benefit to these practices, like I was talking about, qigong for health. I know personally I was feeling pretty crummy as I came on for some treatments that I'm doing, and I just already feel better, and I know that that feeling will help my overall functioning so that can heal better. So not wanting to detract from the many health benefits and the immense tradition that is behind many Qigong practices. And as you may have noticed in this session and also in the last session, there's always, and this was something that Master Wanchil Park always emphasizes with his students, and that I pass on here, is that at any level, it's helpful to not try too much. A lot of our difficulty is actually coming from trying too hard. And then we, use a technique or a method, and it's easy to kind of bring our ego into it and try to make something happen, try and get a benefit. And one of the difficulties with practices as they become more and more subtle, more and more refined, to use the word we were using today, is that it's harder to catch the trying. And even a subtler trying can have a detrimental effect, because the thing, if we could call it a thing, the thing that we're working with, the flow of nature that we're working with, as it becomes more and more refined, is itself so refined and so sensitive to the kind of push or the trying. And so with circulation practices, or with this sense of Taoist alchemy, it's very supportive to have a sense of it's already going on. We just tend to cover over it. And the practices are about doing less and uncovering by doing less. For example, by being less heavy-handed with our concepts and our expectations, and just feeling what's there. Just feel our fingers. And this is where, in the tradition of Tai Chi alchemy, it really was like an alchemizing, like you're going to refine jing, and you're going to kind of make more qi. It's going to turn into qi, transform some of your jing into qi. At least that can sometimes be the interpretation. And, that the view here is, as a flow of nature, our jing, our qi, our shen is all these flows of nature, and it's just a spectrum. And as we open more to the fineness and finest of flow, we can go more along that sense of the spectrum, more to qi, more to shen. But it was always there as that spectrum. We're not making more of it. It was just there. We're just uncovering it. And that's a way that we can practice, and even, on these adventures, feel like we are, heading in that direction of connecting more fully to Tao, the way it is. Even as the, practically infinite freedom of flow, without some of the downsides of trying that can backfire and even cause some health difficulties if people take them too far. So because that relates to safety, I just wanted to take a little bit of extra time here to give that view, and to make it clear that not about trying to refine. And overall in this practice, we're not about trying to do anything. So, thank you for adventuring together with me, together with us here today.